The roar hit me first. 37 motorcycles, maybe more. I couldn't count them all from my wheelchair in the garage doorway, but I felt every single engine vibrate through my chest. The Hells Angels filled our entire street, chrome glinting in the morning sun, leather vests bearing that familiar winged skull. My daughter Sophie stood beside me, her small hand gripping my shoulder. In 72 hours, this garage, the only thing keeping me from drowning after I lost my legs in Kandahar, would belong to Sterling Development Corp. But these bikers, these men the world called outlaws, they'd come to make sure that didn't happen. I didn't know how a 10-year-old girl convinced them to show up. I didn't know what they planned to do. All I knew was that my little girl had done something I couldn't. She'd asked for help. But to understand how we ended up here, surrounded by the largest biker rally our town had ever seen, we need to go back 3 months. 3 months earlier, a man in a $3,000 suit destroyed my life. It's the little things that break you. The IED in Kandahar took my legs. My wife left 6 months later. I didn't blame her. I turned my dad's old garage into Marcus's auto repair. It was the only thing keeping me going. Then Robert Sterling walked into my life. He wore a suit that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. Smiled like a shark. "Mr. Dawson, I'm here to help," he said, sliding papers across my desk. "Small business loan, low interest. Keep your garage running smooth." The bank had turned me down twice. Medical bills were piling up. Sophie needed new clothes, school supplies. I signed without reading the fine print. That was my first mistake. 3 months later, I got the letter. Payment due, $47,000. Immediately. My hands shook as I read it. The interest rate had ballooned from 6% to 34%. There were fees I'd never heard of, penalties buried in legal language I didn't understand. I called Sterling Development, got a receptionist who transferred me to voicemail. I called again and again. Finally, Sterling himself answered. "Read your contract, Mr. Dawson," he said, voice flat. "Everything's legal. You have 72 hours to pay, or we foreclose. Have a blessed day." Click. I sat in my wheelchair in the empty garage. The letter crumpled in my fist. $47,000. I didn't have 4,700. This place, my dad's legacy, my last shred of dignity, gone. I thought about calling the VA, lawyers, but I knew how this ended. Guys like Sterling had teams of attorneys. Guys like me had nothing. That night, Sophie found me crying in the garage. 10 years old, and she had to see her dad broken. "It's gonna be okay, Daddy," she whispered, hugging me tight. "I'm gonna fix this." "Baby, you can't fix this." But I didn't know my daughter. Not really. The next morning, Sophie was gone. I found a note on the kitchen table. "Gone to get help. Back soon. Love you, Daddy." My heart stopped. I called her cell. No answer. I was about to call the police when I heard motorcycles. One, then two, then a whole pack rumbling down our street. They stopped in front of the garage. The lead rider, a mountain of a man with a gray beard down to his chest, removed his helmet. "You Marcus Dawson?" he asked. "Who's asking?" "Name's Dutch, president of the Hells Angels Riverside chapter." He gestured to the riders behind him. "Your daughter came to our clubhouse this morning, walked right up to the gate, asked to speak to whoever was in charge, told us about your situation." I couldn't breathe. Sophie went to a Hells Angels clubhouse alone? Dutch smiled. "Ballsiest thing I've seen in 20 years. She said her daddy was a veteran who got screwed by some suit, and she needed help from people who keep their word." Pause. "We don't usually get involved in civilian matters, but one of my guys, Reaper, he lost his brother in Iraq. Another guy, Chains, his kid sister married a Marine. We take care of our own, and veterans, they're our own." "I don't understand," I said. "What can you do?" Dutch's smile disappeared. "We're gonna look into this Sterling Development. If what your daughter says is true, you're not the only one getting screwed. And if we find out this guy's targeting vets, he cracked his knuckles. We're gonna make sure everyone knows about it. For the next 2 days, I watched the Hells Angels work. They weren't what I expected. These weren't thugs or criminals. They were mechanics, construction workers, small business owners, organized, strategic. They dug through public records, talked to other veterans in town, connected dots I couldn't see. What they found made my blood boil. Sterling Development had issued predatory loans to 17 veteran-owned businesses in our county over the past 2 years. The pattern was identical every time. Low initial rates, impossible terms buried in fine print, sudden payment demands, foreclosures. Sterling would seize the properties, flip them to commercial developers, and pocket massive profits. He'd stolen a hardware store from a Vietnam vet, a restaurant from a Gulf War Marine, a landscaping company from a retired Air Force captain. All legal, all documented, all protected by lawyers and contracts. "This is worse than we thought," Dutch told me on the second night. "Sterling's not just a predator. He's systematic, calculated, and he's got judges in his pocket." "So what do we do?" I asked. "The foreclosure's tomorrow at noon." Dutch looked at his crew. They looked back. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. "We show up," he said simply. "And do what?" "Whatever it takes." Which brings us back to this morning. 37 motorcycles, maybe more. The street looked like a scene from a movie, except this was real. My neighbors stood on their porches, watching. Sophie held my hand. At 11:45 a.m., Robert Sterling's BMW pulled up. He stepped out, flanked by 2 security guards and a woman carrying a briefcase full of foreclosure documents. He saw the bikers. His face went white. "What is this? These people need to disperse. This is private property." "Not yet it isn't," Dutch said, stepping forward. "We did some digging, Sterling. Found out about all those other vets you screwed. Talked to reporters. Local news is on their way. So's the state attorney general's office. Turns out predatory lending has some gray areas when you specifically target disabled veterans." Sterling's jaw tightened. "This is all legal. You can't—" "We also talked to your investors," another biker said. "This one was Chains, the guy whose sister married a Marine." He held up his phone. "Sent them all the information about your practices. Turns out they don't like bad publicity. They're pulling funding. As of this morning, Sterling Development is bankrupt." The lie was beautiful. I saw Sterling's eyes dart to his phone. He grabbed it, started making calls. His face got redder with each one. "You're bluffing," he said, but his voice cracked. Dutch smiled. "Maybe, maybe not. But here's what's definitely true. You're not taking this garage. See, we bought the note." My heart stopped. "What?" "Between all of us, we pooled resources, bought the debt from the bank this morning. The $47,000, you owe it to us now, and we're changing the terms. 0 interest, pay it back whenever you can. Take 10 years if you need to." I couldn't speak, couldn't think. Sophie squeezed my hand. Sterling looked like he might explode. "This isn't over," he spat. Then he got in his BMW and drove away, tires screeching. That was 6 weeks ago. The Attorney General's office really did investigate Sterling Development, found enough fraud to bring charges. He's fighting lawsuits from 8 different veterans now. His business is actually finished. The garage is still mine. I'm paying the Angels $20 a week. Dutch says there's no rush. Some of his guys bring their bikes here for repairs now. Turns out bikers need good mechanics. Sophie's back to doing homework on that rolling stool, but something changed in her. She's braver now, stronger. She learned that sometimes the scariest looking people have the biggest hearts, that asking for help isn't weakness, and that family isn't always about blood. Last week, Dutch brought his grandson by. 8 years old, obsessed with motorcycles. Sophie showed him around the garage like she owned the place. Maybe she does. This place is hers too. I still can't walk, still can't do a lot of things, but I learned something from my daughter and a motorcycle club. You're never as alone as you think. Sometimes angels wear leather vests instead of white robes. Sometimes salvation arrives on Harleys instead of clouds. And sometimes, when a 10-year-old girl is brave enough to ask for help, the whole world changes. I'm Marcus Dawson. I'm a disabled veteran, a single dad, and the owner of the best damn garage in town. My daughter saved me. A motorcycle club saved us both. And every time I hear engines roar down our street, I remember. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up when you need them most.